Welcome to week 5. Just one chapter in our primary text today, Tracy chapter 7. The author opens with the importance of self-reflexivity. Fancy word, basically means interviews and reviews the various types of interviews. How do we respond based upon the types of interviews that we're using? And some of those include structured, semi-structured, individual, group, face-to-face, mediated, focus group, all kinds of different interviews. It's one of the beautiful things about qualitative research. The chapter also explores ways in which researchers can strategically make choices about interview venue, the size, other logistics. You don't want to just take what's available unless you're forced to. You want to try to be strategic. What will get you the best results based upon what you've learned so far in your research? And then I think perhaps most importantly, the chapter provides guidance on how to write, structure, and order your interview questions. Okay? When you start writing those questions, it's okay to just brainstorm for a while. Just get something on the page. But eventually, you're going to want to know, how do you edit them? How do you structure them? What order you're going to ask them? And then what kind of dialogue you're going to allow back and forth once you start doing your research. Finally, the author in this chapter addresses the important question of how many interviews are enough. I get this question a lot. How many interviews do I need? I don't know. But typically, what I look for is what's known as saturation. Once I start hearing the same answers repeated consistently, then I know I'm starting to get enough interviews to validate the data that I've found. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Your author offers some others as well, and sometimes you don't have a choice. I mean, we're kind of limited on time, and normally your research is limited on time, but we're really limited in this class. It's only 8 weeks long, so don't overthink that as part of your research. It's more important that you learn the principles than you come out with a solid, definitive, well-defined, something you can defend a research. Okay. Now, oftentimes people think of interviews as this dyadic, one person, another person, face-to-face communication, and it is that. But it can also occur in focus groups, think about focus groups or other various mediated contexts. I've seen them done online, I've seen them done through, video online or email back and forth. There's lots of ways to do it, and they all have their benefits and challenges. And then, of course, there are benefits from making sure that you have a fair amount of planning, design, and that overarching principle, strategic thinking. What is the strategy? How does this fit my goals, my purpose? How does it answer the questions that I've asked? Okay, one supplemental reading this week from Story. This study explores the relationship cultivation. There's some data from 32 in-depth interviews with communication officers. I thought this was important because most of us are in the communication field or maybe exploring the communication field, and so it's interesting to see how these communication officers report their own relationship with research. The study does use a qualitative research method, so you'll get another example of how that's done. And your authors describe why they chose that. They talk about how it allowed for the exploration of how people interpreted their experiences and what meaning they attributed to those experiences. And here again, this is one of the benefits of qualitative research over quantitative research. Quantitative research is very important. I use it. I'm not a quantitative researcher. I'm not a data analyst. I'm not a statistician. But I certainly use quantitative information. I prefer, in most settings, and the context that I'm most, or the method I'm most comfortable using is qualitative for most of my research because of this. I like to kind of grab that quantitative information, and then I want to put some meat on that bone. I want to know how people attribute their experience. I want to know the context. I want to know how they interpret the information they have, because most of what I do, that adds a lot more meaning. And quite frankly, I think it's helpful to have both the qualitative as well as the quantitative. Okay, that's it for this week. But always stay ahead with your assignments, stay engaged in the discussion board, and enjoy your time of learning.